Chuck E. Cheese, the place where a kid can be a kid, step into the world of video games, and learn about gambling their money away. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, all my tickets could ever afford was a couple of measly stickers, a silly pencil, or a squishy brain, all of which I would undoubtedly lose the minute I got home. Oh well, I guess it makes sense since I spent all of my time on the one machine that didn't give out any tickets, that being the Extreme ID machine. Seriously, I miss that thing with all of my heart. One of the first game-related things that Sheep and I could agree on was that going to the arcade as a kid was the absolute best. What made this even better is that she and I discovered our childhood arcade, Chuck E. Cheese, was the exact same location. I still wonder if we ever happened to cross paths as kids. During one of our regular trips to our favorite used game store, we stumbled across the perfect game to try out, Chuck E. Cheese's Party Games for the Wii. Even though I knew nothing about the gameplay, I insisted that we get it for just $12 complete in box to try out together. This led to finding more and more games, including Chuck E. Cheese Game Room and Playhouse on DS, as well as Chuck E. Cheese sports games and Super Collection on the Wii. There were also a few games that were released on the DS eShop, but we'll get into that in a little bit. In between each rundown, I'll also include some fun segments that cover different Chuck E. Cheese related things. I feel it's only fair to start with the first game we found, which works out really well since it was actually the first game to be released. Chuck E. Cheese's Party Games was the first of the console games, with a title that clearly tells you what it's all about. For whatever goofy reason, it's only a one-player game, but I wanted to give it a fair shot regardless. Chuck E. Cheese's Party Games was released by UFO Interactive Games in 2010 on 3 platforms: iOS, DS, and finally the Wii. As was the trend at this time, the games were not the same, and while the Wii boasted 18 games in one, the DS version only had 9, and the iOS version had a measly 8 minigames available. The iOS title was particularly interesting because it also had 4 of its minigames released alongside of it as individuals, each going for 99 cents in the App Store. These games were directly taken from Wii's Party Games and included skee-ball, basketball, air hockey, and Spot the Difference. The DS port also had a simplified version of the game locations, entirely removing everything except for the game room and the lobby. The minigames are also titled differently than the Wii counterparts, but many of them are the same games, with a couple different ones as well. Overall, I really enjoyed the gameplay of the Wii version. The game has minimal voice acting, and if I remember correctly, only Chucky has a specific monologue, and the cutscenes are skippable. The game starts with picking one of 10 characters to play as, 5 boys and 5 girls who each have individual personality traits. Once you begin, a quick cutscene introduces you to the world of Chuck E. Cheese, and you, as an elementary schooler, are told by your dad that you need to get a job if you want money to go to the arcade. After a little bit, you are transported to Chuck E. Cheese's and go through a tutorial stage where you learn the ropes. You're able to work at Pasquale's pizza shop to make tokens, and then you can use the tokens to earn tickets. Only 3 of the minigames unlock automatically, so you'll also have to use the tokens to spin the lucky wheel and hope to unlock new ones. I have a love-hate relationship with this, since the art style really reminds me of the super spin machines in the real Chuck E. Cheese's, but I definitely could see myself getting easily triggered with it if I was a kid. Especially once you get almost all the games, you find yourself going through tons of tokens and only getting one condolence ticket every time it gives you a repeat. Anyways, once you hit 20 tickets from the arcade games, you'll unlock the prize shop. The prize shop has prizes available that range from 20 tickets all the way up to 30,000 tickets. It includes some shirts, toys that you can play with in your room, game upgrades for the arcade games, special prizes that decorate your room, and ultimate prizes worth $30,000. The last 2 kinds of prizes are different depending on the character you choose in the beginning, but because of how difficult it is to get ultimate prizes, they'll stay in your room even if you switch characters. Speaking of your room, that unlocks once you purchase your first prize, as long as it's one that goes there. You also have a personal room, where you have access to different things like playing with your toys or changing your outfits. There's a separate trophy room, which has various unlockable trophies and the requirements for each of them. Along with this room, there's a leaderboard of sorts, which allows you to see all the high scores you've set on the minigames. Going to work at Pasquale's is pretty simple, but there are 4 levels total. The door on the right will also unlock eventually, releasing the last minigame. I honestly had way too much fun playing this. The style of the cursor and the ticket grind actually reminded me a lot of Six Flags Fun Park, the Wii game, which was released 2 years prior to this one. Chuck E. Cheese was simple enough, but has varying levels of minigames, so it's fun to play for a variety of ages. I actually appreciated how varied the minigames were a lot. Some of the games, like Target Practice or Picture Hunt, were a lot harder for me, but I could see them being a ton of fun for other people. I think the variety of choices lends well to the audience, since I'm sure every player would have a different favorite. The game was super nostalgic for me, since it has the Phase 4 artwork I grew up with, and Sheep and I even ordered a pizza while recording the gameplay to really make it the experience. If you're looking to play, it's pretty affordable, at around $7 loose and $12 complete in box. The DS game will run you a little bit more for less gameplay, but if you're a collector or prefer that system, it's currently about $10 loose or $22 complete in box. There is one other way to play this game, but I'll let you know about that in a little bit. If you haven't heard already, Chuck E. Cheese just opened 10 locations of Chuck's Arcade across the United States. What is Chuck's Arcade, you ask? It's a Chuck E. Cheese specifically catered to the adults who grew up there. Chuck's Arcade has all the latest games and a few classic games that you love, according to their website. Most of the locations have the nostalgic artwork we grew up with, and a ton of them even have the fursuits on display. Since most of the Chuck E. Cheese locations have moved past animatronics, I'm so looking forward to seeing them again. But unfortunately, there's not one in my state, so it'll have to wait. Alright, on to the next game. Since I started with the Wii, I'll continue with the second title, Chuck E. Cheese's Sports Games. This game was released on March 3rd, 2011, also by UFO Interactive Games, but was only released for the Wii. Chuck E. Cheese's Sports Games also falls under the party genre, but allows for single player or multiplayer with up to 4 players. The game doesn't have any cutscenes or storylines, and it feels a decent amount like Wii Sports did to me. Instead of Mii's, you can pick from Chucky, Helen Hen, Jasper, and Pasquale to play as. Each player can rather helpfully select whether they are playing right-handed or left-handed at character selection time. Munch is a playable character as well, but he's only available after doing well on all of the minigames. The game comes preloaded with bowling, mini-golf, baseball, tennis, hockey, fishing, racing, and a carnival-esque water shooting game. There's also one other minigame called Target Practice that is unlocked after getting gold medals on each of the other games. The soundtrack is questionable for this game, and the maps are subpar. As with a lot of licensed games, the development is less strong since the company is banking on the characters to do a lot of the heavy lifting. That being said, the games were fun and easy to control, and I would definitely play them again. The motion controls were a little bit iffy, especially on the bowling game, but I felt pretty good about it anyways. I played each of the unlocked minigames by myself and enjoyed them quite a bit. I really enjoyed the golf game, and the ice hockey was a close second since it reminded me of the Polly Pocket soccer game I used to play on my dad's computer. I also played one round of mini golf against Sheep, and it was a ton of fun. My family and I played a lot of Wii Sports growing up, so even with the simplicity of this game, I felt like it was worth playing. Unfortunately, this one is one of the pricier console games, hitting at about $32 loose or $35 complete in box, which isn't breaking the bank, but still isn't the best for such a simple game. However, there is a solution that I promised earlier. Chuck E. Cheese's Super Collection was the third and final Wii game that came out in September of 2011, and while I was super excited to find it, I probably should have looked into it first. The game is the best deal if you're interested in both of the Wii games, since it is literally just the two of them on one disc. It runs for about $25 loose and $40 complete in box, which actually isn't too bad when you consider that you'd be getting both games. Taking a break from all this game talk, I want to get into some fun facts. For most of us who grew up going to and loving Chuck E. Cheese, the 2.0 update killed a lot of the joy. Like tons of other companies, Chuck E. Cheese redesigned their company in 2017 to make it more modern and minimalistic. There are various locations that still have some of the animatronics left, but unfortunately, many of them have lost their nostalgia. My favorite location that I've discovered on my quest to find an ID machine was the location in Springfield, Illinois, where Chucky and his band are still fully intact and perform regularly. At first, I assumed this was a mistake, perhaps a store flying under the radar, since I first saw them in 2022, long after many of the animatronics were destroyed. I've checked back every year since then, and have been thrilled to still see them there. It actually wasn't until I started researching for this video that I saw this post on Chuck E. Cheese's Facebook page. I also found out that some locations, separate from the legacy locations, do still have animatronics or bots, even in 2025. And according to one post, they'll remain that way for just a bit longer, but are not guaranteed to stay forever. When I first started looking into this, I learned that many of Canada's locations had not yet been updated, but unfortunately, back in spring, corporate started pushing the 2.0 remodel there as well. That being said, there are some locations in Canada that have already been given the legacy title, and I'm hoping that they'll consider adding more. Alright, back to games. In November of 2010, a couple of months after the first Wii game released, UFO released both Chuck E. Cheese's Playhouse and Chuck E. Cheese's Game Room, both being DS titles. Based on the artwork, minigames, and color choices, it seems like Playhouse was marketed towards young girls, while Game Room was for the young boy crowd. Both of the two games include 13 minigames, though some are the same games being reused. Unlike the Wii Party game, there's no storyline to follow. Instead, you enter a screen with an image that has been split into multiple different portions. You can switch between two screens, and each is filled with various minigames. The images are different in each game, but the setup is still similar. I started with Playhouse, so we'll cover that one first. Each of the 13 minigames is super simplistic and easy to understand, which is great because there's very little to no tutorial for how to play them. The 13 minigames for Playhouse include a maze, spot the difference, puzzle, connect the dots, coloring, bowling, piano organ playing, sound memorizing, matching wheel, make a house, hairstylist, dress up, and jewelry making. While the minigames do have some fun new artwork, most of them were not very well designed. The bowling game is super simplified and the ball can only go straight. The sound memorizing game was a lot like Simon, but the sounds were annoying and got old quickly. Coloring was fun, but not every color was accessible, which made it impossible to do some of the coloring pages that they designed accurately. And remember when I talked about gambling earlier? Matching Wheel is a legitimate slot machine. On a positive note, I really liked the house decorating game. I thought the designs they used for it were super cute, and it made me wish that I could decorate my current apartment that way. Game Room was just like Playhouse, but more catered to sports games. The 13 minigames in Game Room are penalty kick, piano organ, bowling, sound memorizing, build a car, matching wheel, slingshot, coloring book, puzzle, train, maze, connect the dots, and spot the difference. If these sound familiar, it's because only 4 of them are different, making the games just barely separated. I do appreciate that of the games that did change, it doesn't just feel like the boy counterpart, with it being entirely new designs for games. That being said, Build a Car is similar in a lot of ways to the Build a House minigame in Playhouse, though it required lots of layering, so the fun artwork often got covered up. The race car building style reminded me a bit of the straight-to-home 1999 Chuck E. Cheese movie, which we'll talk about later. Alright, time for another fun fact. Despite all the remodels, the nostalgia isn't totally dead yet. The kids who grew up at Chuck E. Cheese are hitting adulthood, like I mentioned earlier, and during COVID, the corporation realized that Chuck E. Cheese holds meaning to adults too. Regardless of the parent company having to file for bankruptcy during the height of the pandemic, Chuck E. Cheese is doing really well. When they released their frozen pizza line in 2023, it sparked lots of memories for a lot of people and sold some big numbers. FYI, I've tried the pizza and it's actually pretty good. It also gives you free tickets if you make a purchase in the store. In recent years, lots of retro Chuck E. Cheese merch has hit the market. In 2023, Funko made a pop figure titled Retro Chuck E. Cheese, which sported a Phase 4 outfit and a token in his hand. The box also featured the logo from the time rather than the newest iteration. Box Lunch also semi-recently released a bunch of vintage-style merch, including the cutest token pin and keychain, which I was actually gifted for Christmas this year. The National Bobblehead Hall of Fame also released a collection on National Bobblehead Day this year. In fact, even Chuck E. Cheese's official website currently has tabs for both retro and classic-style merch, which even goes as far back as Pizza Time Theater. Back to games, we'll move right along. UFO also made 2 other Chuck E. Cheese games, which were both intended for the DSi in 2012. Neither of the games ever had a physical release, so it makes it pretty much impossible to play anymore since the DSi shop closed in 2017. The first game that was released was titled Chuck E. Cheese's Arcade Room. The game is similar to the Wii Party games, though it only has 6 minigames to play. The 6 games are Basketball, Alley Roller, Dress Up, Jasper Racing, Smash-a-Munch, and Mr. Munch's Target Practice. The actual setup of the game looks a lot like the lobby of party games on Wii, but there's no introduction or storyline. From the lobby, players can choose to go to the arcade, the shop, the challenges, or the settings. Just like party games, you can use the tickets that you earn to buy prizes in the shop. However, there's no room to interact with these prizes in. Instead, everything in the shop is shown as a silhouette until you purchase it. Once you purchase an item, it reveals itself and stays in full color on the shelves within your save slot. The game originally cost $5 to buy, which ultimately was probably not worth it considering how poor the reviews were. The second and final DSiWare game was titled Chuck E. Cheese's Alien Defense Force, and it came out later that year. The game had 5 versions of Munch's Target Practice that were space-themed, as well as offering normal and hard difficulty levels. The game did include a backstory at the beginning, which I thought was silly. It also had trophies that were unlockable, though it doesn't appear to tell you how like the other games did. So that's the last of the Chuck E. Cheese games, and as you can tell, they're pretty hit or miss. They can also sometimes be a pain to track down for very little gameplay value. With that being said, they feel super nostalgic, and sometimes that's all you need for a little pick-me-up at the end of a long day. On a completely different note, I want to leave you by talking about the silly 1999 movie, Chuck E. Cheese in Galaxy 5000. It's a terrible movie, with some of the worst CGI and most convoluted plots ever put into a kid's film. Except for this one song. If you're looking to watch it, it's super expensive to pick up, but it is available for free on YouTube. And if you want to be saved the hassle of watching it yourself, there's someone on YouTube who's also covered the plot in detail. But don't blame me if you happen to get recommended Chuck E. Cheese videos until the day you die afterwards.